Okay, cool. Everything is set up. Welcome to the 0 to 60 Terminal Monopoly video series. This video is supposed to help you get your repository set up so you can start coding as quickly as possible. I'm on a LibWest computer here just to show you that it's really easy to set up your repository on any computer. And also, if you ever wanted to work at LibWest on Terminal Monopoly, so you have other computers to do networking with, you could do it here, and I can show you the process here. But really, the process for cloning a repository is the same thing on everyone's computers. And this is just a video to quickly get you started with that. So the very first step is going to be, of course, to access GitHub. So you just go to github.com. And here we have the UFOC Remote Terminal Monopoly Repository. This is where all the changes are made and where all the main code is stored. From here, obviously, if you're starting out for the first time, you should read through the documentation. So you got a README here, and this kind of is the basic breakdown of everything Terminal Monopoly. The README does need to be updated sometime soon, but for now it's fine. Yeah, and all this is also detailed in the README along with the contributing file right here, or this contributing dot markdown. So we're kind of just following through that. Everything that I'm going to talk about in this video is explained in this document as well. So definitely take a look at that. Cool. So when you're actually trying to contribute to the project, you're going to choose an issue on the issues page right here, and you can read through these. You want to look for ones that aren't assigned to anyone. So some available ones would be like this bank loan one or the attack module. You can sort in a bunch of different ways by if it's assigned, or there's a bunch of different sorts, but mostly you're going to be using this labels one. Yeah, really good. It's pretty obvious, but you click on something, you read through it, and I try to give pretty good descriptions of the issue. I'm getting better at that now, especially right now. But yeah, so yeah, you choose an issue. In this video, I'm not going to be solving an issue, but in another video, I will be, and actually I'll be showing you how I would approach an issue and how you might want to do that as well. So now we're going to set up our remote repository, and I do need to sign in GitHub. So we'll do that real quick. Okay, now that we're signed in, what you'll do now is you'll go to your repositories, and you won't actually have a Terminal Monopoly repository. So how we're going to fix that is you'll go to the code page in Terminal Monopoly, just the home page, and you're going to press this button, fork. So it says fork your own copy of UFOC Terminal Monopoly. So click on fork. It's going to ask you to give it a name. You can just leave it as Terminal Monopoly if you'd like. A description, great. Copy of the main branch only, that's fine. Create your fork. Choose an owner. I already have this fork, so let me see if I can do like 2. Let's see if that works. Well, it'd be easy for you to just be able to create the fork just like that. In my case, I can actually just show you what mine looks like. And yours is going to look the same as well, except it will be totally up to date. Since I'm behind, I'm actually going to sync my fork real quick. Just update branch. So what it's doing there is, because I was 1 commit behind, it's taking the latest changes in the main branch and updating them onto my own branch. And by branch, I mean, in this case, the fork of the repository. And you can see it says right here, forked from UFOC Terminal Monopoly. So this is what your fork is going to look like as well. And yeah, good. So that's your remote repository. This is remote. I call it remote because it's hosted on GitHub and not on your computer. Now you're going to clone your repository to VS Code. You can use any code editor you like. I heavily recommend VS Code because it has really good GitHub integrations, though, and just a bunch of other extensions that make your life super easy. So that's what I'll be using in this video. But to clone your repository, it's pretty simple. You're going to open a command line, and you want this to be at the directory where you can access it. For example, if you have like a coding folder, you might want to do it there. But the command is pretty simple. It should be git clone You're going to copy the URL, or actually, you want to use this code dropdown and copy this right here. Git clone, you'll paste that here. And it's cloned into it. And then if you actually check your file explorer at this location, C users, Adam Gouldy, C users, Adam Gouldy, you'll see right here, it's cloned the actual folder, or anyway, a folder that has all the terminal monopoly data in it. So in my command line, I'm going to change directory to terminal monopoly. And when I press tab, it autofills, which is pretty helpful. You're going to want to start using that. And now you can see all the files are here as well. Cool. So now we actually have terminal monopoly on our system. And it's useful to use clone because it will set up a sort of GitHub integration that lets you like git push and whatnot from your repository in this folder. It's not going to push anything right now because there isn't anything to push. Okay. And it wants me to sign in, but we'll get to that later. Okay. So now I'm using VS Code. In VS Code, you should open the folder. You'll see, because VS Code has a bunch of GitHub extensions already installed. You could just clone here, but I'm not doing that. I'm just going to use the folder we already cloned. Git open. I'm going to find it in my file explorer. Here it is. Select folder. You see it opens in this window. Trust the authors. It opens in this window with everything that we wanted. We have all our files to the side. Very good. Additionally, for VS Code specifically, you are going to want to install the extensions. Being on a libless computer, I don't know if I can install them easily. At least that's not in the scope of this video. And also, we're not making any Pythonic changes. But you do want to install the Python extension for VS Code especially, and maybe some other ones that might help you, but definitely get the Python one because it gives you IntelliSense, debugging, linting formatting. It just really helps. Basically a necessity. So now on VS Code, this is essentially your local branch, your local repository, where all your code is stored locally on your computer. I'm going to open a terminal in VS Code and use this terminal now for a lot of things, such that if I were to do like git branch, it shows me main, which makes sense because git branch is returning any local branches we have on this repository. A branch is similar to a fork. It's essentially a copy of the code locally. And you can make changes on a branch that won't affect the other branches. So that's kind of the beauty of using branches. For terminal monopoly, I heavily recommend everyone uses a development branch and a main branch. That's the workflow I use. Sometimes I have even more branches if I'm working on different features at the same time. But for every big feature, you want to have a branch. To create a branch, I would do git branch, and I think it's just the name of the branch, git branch dev. So now if we do git branch to list all of them, we can see there's dev and there's main. Great. Whenever you're making changes, do not make the changes directly on your main branch. Please use your development branch. So I'm going to do git checkout dev. So now I'm on branch dev. Very good. Now you'd make your changes, whatever they would be. If you're working on an issue, you're going to do all your issue changes here. Maybe, actually, I saw there is in the contributed file, there's something I want to change. The minimum system version isn't Python 3.10, but rather Python 3.9. So I'm going to make that change, save it. And a couple things happen here. You'll notice a little one icon appeared in source control. So it shows all our changes. You can also see the entire source control tree, which is very helpful in case you're ever wondering where you are. And yeah, if you press Control S when you're making a change, it's going to show up in source control because you're saving it. And we're going to commit on our development branch, and that's going to be the end of this video. But that's like how you get started. This is different than committing on main or pushing on main. All a commit is doing is essentially saving your work from the from the last commit, if you will. So everything you see here in source control is our commit history. It's all the commits that people have posted to Terminal Monopoly. And you definitely want to make the commits like reasonable, because we don't want to have like a trillion poorly named commits. You can see the source control graph starts to get a little bit crazy, like really crazy. This is typically a pretty bad practice. When you see stuff more linear, that's much more easier to read through. And so it's a good idea to preface your commits like you see other commits prefaced. I definitely recommend some of my more recent commits to look through how I describe them. Like this one I'm hovering over, it says feature, and then it gives a very brief description in that first line, and then a bit of a longer description in all the lines following. So for ours, all we did was change contributing. So we can just say update, or we'll start with a keyword, so documentation. In fact, let me show you something real quick. If you are typing in this message box, that's going to be just the title. But if you want to add a description, then leave the message box empty and just press commit. It's going to ask you if there are no stage changes to commit. Would you like to stage all your changes and commit them directly? You do actually. But before I do that, let me cancel and show you the command lines that do the same thing. You're welcome to always use command line interface or the VS Code integration. But if you're using command line with, per se, a different code editor, you might not have the actual extensions that do the same thing. So you're going to do git add, and you would add the file name if you want to add a specific file. But if you want to add everything that you've changed, you do git add dot. And you can see now it moved from changes into stage changes. And now we can do git commit. But at this point, I personally use the button, because if you do it here, you have to add the description here, and like the longer description I think is like this, but I always use the button. In VS Code, it's gonna, well, I do need to sign in into the GitHub integration here, so give me 1 second to do that. Okay, so typically once you press the commit button with no message in the text box, it should open this commit edit message file. And then the first line is going to be the title of the commit message. And then if you'd like to leave a new line, all the lines after that will be your description. So in this case, our meaningful title is going to be documentation, update contributing.md. And then description could be, well, in this case, it's very self-explanatory, but usually you'd have a longer description here. Cool. So I saved the file. I'm going to close it. And then usually VS Code will also submit that using that commit file. But on LibWest computers, it's having some issues. Additionally, if you did want to use the command line interface for making a commit description or a commit, then you could do it like this, git -m, where m is the message. And so I do the same thing, documentation, update contributing MD. I'd recommend this only for very short commit messages though. There you go. Now it's committed. You'll see in the source control, a new node appears, and your dev branch is now above origin.main. Additionally, if you do git checkout main, your other local branch, you'll notice that that source control is going to disappear because it doesn't exist yet on your main branch. We'll get to updating your main branch in the next video. Cool. I think that covers everything I wanted to cover in this one. So yeah, that's how you get started pretty quickly with just your local branch, your local repository to make changes.